Okay. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Boom Tube. I'm your host Patrick Feliciano, and today I'm going to talk about something that's really fucking important to me. So I just saw the animated film adaptation of The Killing Joke. It's a very well received Batman Joker tale. People pretty much reference it as like the definitive story of Batman and Joker, and what really ties them together pretty much, and how they both walk a fine line between justice and order and sanity or insanity and chaos. It was good. It was a good movie. Does it stand up to the graphic novel? Not exactly. Does it give it justice? Not exactly, but as its own thing, it's a good watch. They added some things to the story to make it a little longer. It starts off with Batgirl, sort of showing her own story pretty much, and giving her some more depth. It's a cool little beginning part, but at the same time, I felt it was a little unnecessary, and it kind of seemed weird because it's very out of place compared to the rest of the tale of The Killing Joke. Kind of sexist at times too. They have to fight this bad guy, this mob guy who's infatuated with Batgirl, and it just at times, and the way Batman treats Batgirl at times, it does come off as a little sexist. And I think they also did it because they needed to add some action within it. Because if you really read The Killing Joke, it's not a crazy action filmed story. Then when it does get into the story, it's good. It's fun. It's a fun adaptation of it. The animation's good, but also at times it's not as good as I would have expected. I mean, for example, the animation in this movie was really good. It's really well done. But for, say, releasing it in theaters, not really. You don't really have to see it in theaters to really appreciate the artwork. It's typical animation for an animated film that they're going to put the Blu-ray. I was hoping for more, because the thing that really adds to the storyline within the comic book as well is the amazing artwork by Brian Boland. I mean, if you really look at this, look at the detail in that crap. I mean, come on, you can literally turn from page to page and all you get is just brilliant artwork. Look at that. I mean, come on. It's fantastic. And it's so dark, and it's almost so real that it's unsettling at times, And I think that was the one thing that kind of bugged me as well. The artwork didn't add to the unsettlingness of the story itself. There's times in the story when you read it, you go, this is really making me feel uncomfortable, and it's kind of disturbing. And it didn't, I feel like it kind of blew through the disturbingness. So right now, spoiler warning about this. So I'm just going to do it right off the bat. So if you haven't read the story, read it. If you haven't seen the movie, go and see it, because I think it's on Blu-ray now and it's on digital download. The thing that kind of bugged me was the part when Joker actually breaks out of Arkham Asylum. When he goes to Gordon's house and Barbara Gordon opens the door and he shoots her in the spine and paralyzes her. It didn't come off as dramatic as I would have hoped. And when he undresses her and then starts taking pictures of her and shows it to Commissioner Gordon, I was hoping it was going to be really graphic, because the way they depict it in the comic book, it seems so violent, and you really see the shock in Gordon's face of like, oh my God, my daughter's in that state, and the expressions that Joker gives on his face at that time too, they're just so creepy, and yet it looks like he's really reveling in the destruction and the pain. And when you go into Joker's background, because in this story it gives a somewhat background to Joker and where he comes from and why he became what he became. I mean, there's even a moment when, he's living in the slums with his wife and she's pregnant, and he really wants to have a good life for them, but he can't make a lot of money because he gave up on being a lab assistant, and he became a comedian because he wanted to make people laugh, but he can't. He's a terrible comedian. He's really bad at telling jokes. So what he does is he tries to do one big mob score to just make a lot of money quick and then get a good life for his family and just get him out of the slums. But then what happens is right before he has to go for the mob, he he gets introduced to the police. The police come and say hi, and they tell him, hey, guess what? Your wife's dead. An electrical shortage, and yeah, she's gone. So not only does he lose his wife, but he loses his unborn child as well. And he's pretty much just broken at that moment. Like, I can't believe they're gone. In the comic book, it's so sad because he just starts bawling, and everyone in this bar that he's sitting in just starts pretty much laughing at him because they're like, look at that fucking pussy. What the fuck's up with that guy? And it's so sad because then the artwork's so fantastic. It really paints a picture, really tells the pain because it just shows him covering and he's just bawling on the table while everyone surrounding him laughing at him. So I was hoping that like that was going to be more dramatic, and it seemed like he didn't care as much, and he just sort of was sitting there, and I just had lots of problems with that. Then you get to the part when he became bad. Joker disguises himself as a Red Hood with the mob guys. They go into the chemical plant, and then their heist gets foiled by some security guards that they weren't expecting, and they start running away. Batman shows up, and of course, like, Joker sees Batman, gets freaked out, falls off the railing of one of the bridges, and then falls into the chemicals, and that's how he becomes a Joker. Bleaches his skin, turns his hair green, and he just loses his fucking mind. That was like the final straw. And that's the whole point of this story. Joker is pretty much trying to prove not only to Gordon, not only to Batman, but sort of to himself and to the world that it just takes one bad day to make a completely sane person go mad. And you don't really feel that as much in this. It just didn't resonate as much as I was hoping for. Especially towards the end, when Joker thinks he's proved his point and he's totally broken Commissioner Gordon, and Batman's finally chasing him through this maze. Joker's talking on a speaker, and he's pretty much saying about the bad day, like just one bad day. There's a moment in the comic book, it seems like Joker at that moment then starts pleading to Batman, saying, you had one bad day, didn't you? I know you did, I can tell. Like, you don't just dress up like a flying rodent just because. Like, something happened to you, something terrible, and on that day, you lost your mind, you snapped. You just lie to yourself and try to deny that, but you did. I can see it. And in the comic, it comes off like he's really trying to plead to Batman, like, you need to understand that you are just like me. You're lying to yourself and you're living a lie. And in the movie, the way the line is delivered, it's kind of blown through very quickly. The story is so ambiguous, and it's hard to portray that into film. Alan Moore is just such a complex comic book writer. It's hard to portray his perspectives and what he's trying to convey into film. They don't make it better. And when they add certain things to the movie, it's not things that make the story better. They're just sort of there, and it's just whatever. To be honest, I think the Dark Knight Returns animated film, part 1 and 2, probably would have been a better film to release in theaters. And in the comic book, it ends in such a way where it leaves it up to the interpretation of the reader, where you're not exactly sure what happens. Does Batman kind of come to terms with the fact that they're just both crazy and they're forever going to do this together? Or does Batman finally really, really snap and just decide to put an end to it all and kill the Joker? And you're not sure within the comic book. You're like, did he kill him or not? It leaves it up to interpretation, and that's the great thing about it. But in the movie itself, it ends with them laughing, but as the camera pans down, you just hear Batman's laughter at the end. Only his. So it just leads more to the thought of, okay, then Batman probably killed the Joker. And it just ends there. The comic book is like 100%, man. It's a great read. But the movie itself, it's probably more like a 70. It definitely does not do the graphic novel as much justice as you would hope.